For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dominic, and a lot is going on right now in the world. We need to understand the prophecies of the Father, the prophecies of the Most High. We need to get a very good understanding of those prophecies in order for us to know what is coming, in order for us to know what we have to do to save our souls and to save the souls of those who we love. We don't want to stay in Babylon because Babylon is going to fall. So what you want to do is you want to go someplace safe. You don't want to be in Babylon at all. And so we're going to start reading right now. We're going to read Isaiah chapter 13 and 14. It is called, the title of this is called The Fall of Lucifer. Many of us believe that Lucifer is Satan, that Lucifer is the devil, but that's not what the Bible teaches. That's not what we see. So we're going to go there and begin reading right now. And let me try one last time to address YouTube, and then we'll start. Okay, I have no idea why YouTube is not working, but it is not working. I have no idea why. It is what it is. Okay, then, so let's go. Isaiah 13 and 14, the fall of Lucifer. We're going to begin with chapter 13. The reason we're beginning with chapter 13 is because we want to have a very good background, so that when we get to the important verses, we'll have a good understanding of what those verses are telling us. So let's start reading Isaiah chapter 13. The burden of Babylon. And before I begin, I want to thank everybody who is here. I see brother Azayahu, how are you? I see our sister Dale. I see a lot of other people. How are you? Let us begin Isaiah chapter 13. Verse 1. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. Lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain. Exalt the voice unto them. Shake the hand, that they may go into the gates of the nobles. So the title of the chapter is The Burden of Babylon. It's going to tell us what's going to happen to Babylon. And we know a lot of us have a pretty good idea of who Babylon is in these last days. It is the American Empire, and it is controlled primarily from two locations, from New York, which is the economic capital of the world, and from London. Those are the two primary centers of control for the Babylonian Empire. Now, don't get me wrong, you also have many other very important centers, like the nation of Israel, that is in North Africa, in what we call today the Middle East. They are supposed to be the tail, while the U.S. is the dog, but we see that it is the tail that sometimes wag the dog. It is Israel that sometimes determines which course of action that the United States is going to take. So the burden of Babylon is going to tell us what's going to happen to the Babylonian Empire, to the United States, and by extension, the European countries, the major nations of the Babylonian Empire. Let us continue. We read again. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. Lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain. Exalt the voice unto them. Shake the hand, that they may go into the gates of the nobles. Who will go into the gates of the nobles? We're going to find out. Verse 3, I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. So the Father is mustering up the armies of the world, the armies that are to come in and to take control of the Babylonian Empire. Verse 4. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Father, the King of hosts, mustereth the host of the battle. The Creator, he is the King of hosts, and he is mustering the armies to go and to fight. Verse 5. They come from a far country. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Father and the weapons of his indignation. So these armies, the Father's going to use as the weapons of his indignation. They come from a far country. So there will be nations, there will be armies that the Father will raise up in order to defeat the kingdom of Babylon, the Babylonian Empire. Okay, we are in verse 6. Howl ye, for the day of the Father is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. So the day of the Father, that is when the Babylonian Empire will fall. The day of the Father is a period of time during which many events will take place. Well, what will take place during the day of the Father? There shall be a changing of the guard. One empire will end, one nation will fall, and another will rise. Let's go to verse 7. Therefore shall all hands be faint, every man's heart shall melt, and they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. When Babylon falls, those who are within the Babylonian Empire will be suffering greatly. The Chaldeans first and foremost, but also anybody else who happens to be in Babylon. If you and I are in Babylon, when Babylon falls, then we too risk the chance of suffering. We too will risk the chance of being in pain as a woman that travaileth. Verse 9. Behold, the day of the Father cometh. Behold, the day of the Father cometh, cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. We read here, the sun shall be darkened during the day of the Father. This is symbolic. It's not that the sun will actually lose its light. And we read a lot of this symbolism is repeated throughout the Bible, such as in the later books of Isaiah, also in Revelation in chapter 21, when it tells us in chapter 21 that that the sun shall not give her light, and that the Father shall be the light of New Jerusalem. It doesn't actually mean that the sun itself will disappear. It is symbolic. What that means is that the Father, whose word is the light, will now continually provide his word, provide his Holy Spirit, so that he can be a light for all of Israel. So we read here in verse 9 and 10 that the day of the Father comes with wrath and anger. We're in Isaiah chapter 13. We read that the stars of heaven and the constellations shall not give their light. This is also symbolic to mean that those nations who are on top of the world right now, they will be blinded. They will be in darkness. All of their plans, everything that they wanted to do moving forward to subdue the earth, all those plans will fall to pieces. We read again, the sun shall be darkened, the moon shall not cause her light to shine. All those nations will be in utter darkness. Verse 11, and I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. So punishment is about to come to earth. The Father will punish not only the evil man, but also the evil nation. He will judge both man and nations alike. And he will make those who are humble, those who seek their word, who seek his word, he will make them to rise, and he will cause the proud to fall. Verse 13, therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place. This doesn't mean that the earth is going to be moved. No. We read, I will shake the heavens. Who are in heaven? Well, we're going to read up on that. Heaven has to do with your position, has to do with your authority. It has to do with your power. The word that is used in the Bible for heaven is shamayim. And when we go to Strong's Hebrew Dictionary, or to any Hebrew dictionary for that matter, in Strong's, it's number 8064. We read that shamayim is a dual of an unused singular. Well, that singular is shamay. What does shamay mean? Shamay means to be lofty. It means the sky. We read that it refers to the higher ether where the celestial bodies revolved, or to the visible arc where the clouds move. So Shamay or Shamayim means to be lofty. It means to be high. That's why it also means the sky. The birds fly in heaven. The birds fly through the sky. The stars are in heaven because the stars are high up as well. And when we go to a Bible dictionary, like Eastern's Bible dictionary, we see a series of meanings for the word heaven as used in the Bible. When we go to Eastern's, we read, the usual word for heavens is shamayim, a plural form meaning heights, elevations. So the word heaven itself does not necessarily refer to a place where the Father resides. It does not refer to a place that we're going to go when we die. It's very important that we understand what Shamayim means. Shamayim refers to the heights. It refers to things that are high, such as being high in authority, being high in power. We read in Hebrews, Paul talking about evil spirits who are in heaven. Why are there evil spirits in heaven? Paul explains it. He says that these evil spirits, we read that in Hebrews 6 verse 12, are authorities. They are powers. They are the chiefs, the princes of the earth who operate in dark places. Why does Paul say that they are in heaven? Because they are high up in authority. They are high up in power. Therefore, Paul says that they are in heaven because their position has been elevated. They dwell in the heights. When we go back to Easton's Bible Dictionary, we see that there's another Hebrew word that is equivalent to Shamayim, and that word is Marom. They also use it for heaven, and that word means high places. It means heights. Okay, so let's move on. If you go to Psalm 18, verse 16, you will see in the King James Version, we read, He sent from above. From above, meaning from on high. He took me, he drew me out of many waters. When we go to the English Standard Version, that same verse reads, He sent from on high. In the New International Version, we read, He reached down from heaven. So in three different versions of the Bible, we see in one verse, we read He sent from above. In that same verse, in a different version, He sent from on high. And in a third version, He reached down from heaven. From above, on high, in heaven, they all mean the same thing because heaven means in the heights. Let's go back to Isaiah. We're in chapter 13, verse 13. Therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place, in the wrath of the King of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger. And it shall be as the chased roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee every one into his own land. So we see here that the Father is telling us that when Babylon falls, every man shall turn to his own people. Every one shall flee into his own land. Many of us believe that when Babylon falls, we can stay in France, stay in Britain, stay in Canada, stay in the United States. No, you will have to leave, especially the land of America, because when Babylon falls, armies will be the cause of her destruction. And these armies will be looking to kill anyone who is still attached to Babylon. So when that happens, the Father will signal for all of Israel who dwells in Babylon to leave. And what we read in here, every man shall turn to his own people. That means people who are in America, from Pakistan, from China, from Indonesia, from Thailand. Everybody will be looking for a way out, not just Israel. The Father wants Israel to lead the way. He wants us to leave first, but every man will see that there is nothing in Babylon, nothing in America for him anymore, and he will get up and he will leave. Let's go down to verse 15. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through. That's why they're leaving. We read, everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravaged. 13, Isaiah 13, verse 17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eye shall not spare children. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when the mighty one overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. So the Medes, the Russians are coming. The Russians are coming, and they shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the young nor the old. So the Father, through his word, is telling us that America, which is the glory of all the European nations, America shall fall, and she shall fall in the same way that the Father destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. That means with fire and with a great destruction. Let's go on now to verse 20. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. Doleful creatures, everybody will be very sorrowful because of the conditions that the remnant will be living in, those who are still alive after Babylon falls. Verse 22, and the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. Her time is near to come, her days shall not be prolonged. The writing is already on the wall. The Father has spoken, Babylon will fall. Let's go to chapter 14 now, and we'll try to run through it a little bit more quickly so we can take some questions afterward. Chapter 14 of the book of Isaiah, verse 1. For the Father will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Father for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. So there is a changing of the guard. Babylon, which was in heaven, in terms of power and authority, their status was elevated. The U.S. is now on top, but that position is going to change because Israel will now be on top. Israel will now be in heaven. We read verse 3. And it shall come to pass in the day that the Father shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. Israel will take up a proverb against the king of Babylon. The king of Babylon is called the oppressor, but the king of Babylon is also called the golden city. Babylon refers to the mountain of Babylon, meaning it refers to the king of Babylon, the city that rules the entire empire. For example, The Roman Empire was called the Roman Empire because it was ruled from Rome. Likewise, the Babylonian Empire of old was called the Babylonian Empire because it was ruled from the city of Babylon. The city of Babylon was the king of the Babylonian Empire. The city of Rome was the king of the Roman Empire. Today, the city of New York and also London, these are the two kings of the Babylonian Empire, but primarily New York, the king of the Babylonian Empire. The Father calls New York in verse 4 the Golden City. We continue. Verse 5, the Father hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers, he who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth. So the United States today is the nation that is at the head of the Babylonian Empire. When the United States fall, there will be no one to help her. The same way she has caused many countries to fall, she too will fall. We read in verse 6, he that ruled the nations in anger. That's the way the United States is ruling right now. She is at war, literally, with many, many nations scattered throughout the world. She is engaged in total warfare against Venezuela. The only thing that you don't see are any bombs falling. She is engaged in war with Yemen through her proxies, Saudi Arabia. She is engaged in war in Somalia, in Chad, in Sudan, in Syria, in Afghanistan, and in many, many other nations. She rules the nations in anger. It's called gunboat diplomacy. She sends out her warships, and then she says, sign on the dotted line. Let us negotiate. How is the negotiation done? Sign on the dotted line, or we will bomb you into oblivion. She rules the nations in anger. Verse 7, the whole earth is at rest. When Babylon falls, the entire earth will be at rest. We read, the whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing, yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no fellow is come up against us. This is very important. Many people say that Babylon is a system, that it's everywhere, that you cannot escape it. But that's not what the word of the Father is saying. The word of the Father is saying when Babylon falls, the earth will be at rest. The nations will say, since thou art laid down, no fellow is come up against us. Babylon is not a system that engulfs the entire world to the extent that you cannot escape. Once Babylon falls, then she will have to let go all of the nations that are in her hands, and then it will be safer, much, much safer to dwell in those nations. That's what we're reading right now. Since thou art laid down, no fellow is come up against us. Verse 9, hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. Hell is moved to meet Babylon. So Babylon is going to fall into hell, but not the Christian hell, where it is a lake of fire and brimstone in the manner that they have taught us, to where we believe that it is a physical place of fire and brimstone. What is being talked about in Isaiah 14 verse 9 is Sheol. And if we go to the dictionary, if we go, say, to Strong's Dictionary, we'll see that Sheol refers to the world of the dead. The world of the dead. The same way you have the world of Israel, you have the world of scientists, you have the world of Christians, you have the world of the dead. All of these worlds are right here on earth. But in the same manner that we read in Ezekiel chapter 37, that Israel is spiritually dead, Sheol refers to that state of existence here on earth, in addition to whatever other meaning that it might have. So when you are in a condition where your cities are waste, where you can barely eat, you're struggling to survive, you are in hell. And that's the condition that the United States will find herself in. That's the condition that Babylon will find herself in. We read Isaiah 14 verse 9, hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations, and they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou also become weak as we? Why are they saying that? Because Babylon is going to become a weak nation. The same way that we see that Sudan is weak, Botswana is weak today, Babylon, the United States, is going to be in that same situation when she falls. She is going to become as weak as the weakest nations that are on the face of the earth. Verse 10 again, all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thailand shall say, oh, the United States is weak just like I am. They can't protect themselves just like I can't. Countries like in the Eastern European nations will say, wow, look how mighty the United States was. Look, she is no stronger than Estonia today. She is no stronger than Latvia today. She has become as weak as one of us. Let's go to verse 11. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy viols. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. Verse 12, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? Is Lucifer, the way we understand Lucifer, in heaven right now, the way we understand heaven? Well, we looked at what heaven means. Lucifer means the morning star. It was translated into the word Lucifer, which also has to do with light in our English Bibles. But the word found in Hebrew for Lucifer is Halel, and Halel means the morning star. When we go back to Isaiah 14 verse 12, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? The Father is calling the city of Babylon Lucifer. He is calling the United States Lucifer. Why? Because the United States sets herself up as a shining star, as if she is the light of the world, that she is the one that brings democracy, that brings peace, that brings joy, that brings enlightenment. All of these are completely untrue, because everywhere she goes, she spreads the opposite. But that's the image that she tries to portray. That's why Hollywood was set up, so that the entire world can believe in Babylon. But As we know, she is getting ready to fall. The Father calls her the morning star because that's how she refers to herself, as a beacon of light. We read again, Isaiah 14, verse 12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? She is causing all the nations to be weak. Did she not weaken Venezuela? Did she not weaken Syria? And before that, Egypt and Libya and Iraq and Afghanistan and Sudan and Yemen? She is the one that is walking through and fro, that is weakening the nations. We read, how art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. We read what heaven is. Heaven refers to the heights. The United States is trying to be the highest in authority, the most powerful nation that has ever existed on the face of the earth, both in terms of power and authority and ability to project her hegemony throughout the entire world, above all nations that are on the face of the earth. So the United States is in heaven right now because she is so far up. We read, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. But she wants to climb even higher. I will exalt my throne above the stars of the mighty one. We read again. I will exalt my throne above the stars of the mighty one. What are the stars of the mighty one? Well, let's look up the word. The word used for star in this verse is kokab. It means a star, figuratively a prince. It also means a prince. So the 32 verse 28, we read in Genesis 32 verse 28, and he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel, for as a prince hast thou power with the mighty one. As a prince, Israel is the prince. The Father is the king. Israel is the prince. As a prince hast thou power with the mighty one and with men, and has prevailed. So the star that Lucifer, the United States, wants to be above is Israel. And when we go to Genesis 15, verses 3 to 5, we see that the Father called the children of Israel the stars of heaven. Let's read it very quickly. Genesis 15, verse 3. And Abram said, behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in mine house is mine heir. And behold, the word of the Father came unto him, saying, this shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad, and said, look now toward heaven, and tell the stars if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, so shall thy seed be. Look toward heaven. Look toward heaven. Look at the stars. So shall thy seed be. So the Father calls the children of Israel the stars in heaven, the stars of heaven. When we go back to Isaiah 14, verse 13, when we read, I will exalt my throne above the stars of the mighty one, that's Lucifer, the king of Babylon. That's the United States, saying that it is not enough for me to be in heaven, but I want to be there forever, and I want to set my position, my place above Israel. Remember, the kingdom was promised to Israel. Israel is the nation that shall rule forever. But Babylon is fighting for that position, trying to take away the inheritance that the Father has already promised to Israel. I will sit also, we read, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation. The congregation is the congregation of Israel in the sides of the north. What does that mean? In the sides of the north. Well, the Hebrew word used in that verse for the word north is Saphon. Saphon means hidden, dark. We read only used of the north as a quarter, gloomy and unknown. So when we read that Lucifer says, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north, it means that Lucifer wants to control, but in secret. Lucifer wants to replace the mighty one, wants to set himself up as if he is the creator of heaven and earth. All that is part of their plan. Eugenics. They want to determine who lives and who dies. They want to be able to control if you have a boy or a girl. That is, if they permit you to have a child in the first place. Will the child have green eyes or blue eyes? Will the child be dark skinned or light skinned? Will the child be tall or short? They want to be able to do the things that are normally attributed to the Father. They want to set themselves up as if they are gods here on earth. Then they will give us a man, Caucasian, green, blue eyes, long hair. They will say, this is God, this is Jesus. Worship him, and we are his holy messengers. Worship us as well, as if we are gods. So that is what Babylon wants to do. Babylon wants to sit upon the mount of the congregation of Israel. Babylon wants to be higher than Israel, and then to rule over Israel and the entire earth as if they are divine rulers. Let's go. We read verse 13 again. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of the mighty one. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. It's not talking about the clouds that produce rain. The clouds here refer to the children of Israel. The word used in this verse for clouds is orb or ab. And what it means is an envelope or density, a cloud. The clouds of heaven is the congregation of the children of Israel. That is what the clouds of heaven refer to, especially in the latter days. When John saw in a vision, when Daniel saw in a vision, when Esdras saw in a vision, the congregation of all the children of Israel who have assembled, there will be so many people who are in front of the throne of the Father. They will be so dense that they will be like a cloud to cover the land. This is the cloud that the Father's referring to in Isaiah 14. When Lucifer say, I will be above the clouds, he's talking about the clouds of heaven above the children of Israel. We read again. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. So even though Lucifer has his sights set on being higher than the Father, Lucifer will fall to the ground and will become Babylon. The United States will fall to the ground and will become like any other nation, one that is weak and one that is in need of care because her children will be suffering. Verse 16. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee, and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of the prisoners? All the kings of the nations, even all of them lie in glory, every one in his own house. So when the United States fall, everybody will say, is this the man? Is this the nation that made the earth to tremble? That did shake kingdoms all over the world? That made the world a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof and opened not the house of his prisoners? Everybody will be in awe. Everybody will be shocked that the nation, the United States, whose empire they thought would last forever, that nation is falling down. Okay, and we are almost done. Verse 19. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under feet. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land, and slain thy people. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned. So the Father said that Babylon is the cause of her own destruction. Because of Babylon, her children will be destroyed, and their names will be erased. They will not be renowned. Verse 21. Prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. And that is what the Europeans do. They fill the face of the world with cities. That's what the Canaanites, their forefathers, did. Filled the face of the earth with cities. What do? They gather all of the world's land and resources unto themselves. They displace all the farmers, the people that work the ground to produce the food. They force all of them to cram into cities, so that they can serve as their servants. The Father is against that. We read, prepare slaughter, that they do not possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. For I will rise up against them, saith the King of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name, the remnant, the son, and nephew, saith the Father. I will also make it a possession for the bittern and pools of water, and I will sweep it with the besom of destruction, saith the King of hosts. Verse 24. The King of hosts hath sworn, saying, Surely as I have thought, so shall it come to pass, and as I have purposed, so shall it stand, that I will break the Assyrian in my land, and upon my mountains tread him under foot. Then shall his yoke depart from off them, and his burden depart from off their shoulders. There's a lot to be said about these verses, but we will tackle that another day. Who is the Assyrian? Well, think Gog, but that we will talk about in the future. Verse 26. This is the purpose that is purposed upon the whole earth, And this is the hand that is stretched out upon all the nations. For the King of hosts hath purposed, and who shall disannul it? And his hand is stretched out, who shall turn it back? In the year that King Ahaz died was this burden. Rejoice not thou, whole Palestina, because the rod of him that smote thee is broken. For out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent. And the firstborn of the poor shall feed, and the needy shall lie down in safety. And I will kill thy root with famine, and he shall slay thy remnant. Howl, O gate, cry, O city, thou, whole Palestina art dissolved, for there shall come from the north a smoke, and none shall be alone in his appointed times. What shall one then answer the messengers of the nation? That the Father hath founded Zion, and the poor of his people shall trust in it. The fall of Babylon. The Father clearing out all the nations who occupy the highest places today, those nations which are exalted, those nations which are in heaven. The Father will destroy and cast to earth all of their thrones, so that Israel can now occupy heaven, so that the Father shall establish New Jerusalem upon earth. That is why Babylon is about to fall. That is why all of the other powers are about to fall today, because the Father is about to establish his kingdom. The kingdom of heaven is coming, and it's coming to earth. Okay, this will do it for our live chat. If there are any questions, you can ask it. I actually have to run, as it is 3:20. I have to be leaving, but we will be doing this hopefully very often. I thank everybody who has been with me. Let me see if I see any names. Fred Fountain, how are you? Yaju Yuda, how are you, brother? How is everybody doing? Thank you for being with me. I will see you guys again real soon. If you have any questions, you can post them, and when I return, I will answer as many questions as I possibly can. Thanks again.